everyone, and welcome to episode number 51 of the NordCast. It is Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. I am your host here, Nordic 97, joined with Carter. How are we doing today, Mr. Richo?
I'm doing pretty well. The Flyers collapse kind of sucks, but other than that, I feel like I'm doing pretty all right.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a second. I do have that in my list of things I want to talk about. And we have Jack. How we doing, Mr. Polko?
Doing good. The Blues scored on their first 4 shots of the night against the Hawks, so great. I'm doing great.
Sounds like Blackhawks hockey.
Yeah, it does.
The Blackhawks also had 1 shot through the first period, so that's a lot.
It's okay. The future's bright.
Yep. A future that is not necessarily bright, a good transition there, Jack, is Arizona hockey. It looks like the Arizona Coyotes are going to be relocating to Salt Lake City. Now, we've heard a lot of stuff over the last week about the overall arena situation, what it's going to look like. And just today, we heard the potential framework for the relocation to Salt Lake City. So let's start at the beginning here. So Arizona, about a week ago, makes their arena proposal. I'm sure you've seen it. It's like an arena with a lot of apartment complexes, a movie theater, this whole thing that they're going to build. And it looks great from the outside, but there's a lot of problems and a lot of holes that have been exposed with it. One of those being Scottsdale mayor has said that it's not welcome or not feasible in Scottsdale, which is not great because the place they're planning on building it is not that far away from Scottsdale. The other thing that was brought up, too, is earlier today before the relocation was that the NHL was actually making 2 schedules, one with the Coyotes in Arizona, the other with a Salt Lake City relocation team. That isn't necessarily new news. That's kind of been around for a while. Saravelli just re-reported on it today. It's kind of just, at first I didn't really think it was that big of a deal because the NHL is kind of just covering their bases, essentially. That's kind of what I saw from it. But then today, per Puck Report NHL, the Coyotes, the NHL, and Utah Jazz owner Ryan Smith are preparing for the possibility of a relocation of the franchise to Salt Lake City as soon as April 18th. The agreement is not done, and sources like Elliot Friedman are warned to be careful making absolute proclamations, but serious progress has been made on the framework of an agreement. So my thing is that I originally thought that when I saw this was that they're covering their bases. So essentially, kind of with what the NHL schedule was doing, they were going to, if they didn't get this bid and they didn't get the arena, they would relocate immediately. If they did get the bid, the team would stay in Arizona. However, what we have found out is that Morello's kind of pulling a move here that I haven't seen ever, to be honest with you. What he's doing is he's relocating this team to Salt Lake City, this Coyotes team, and then they're going to build this arena if he gets the bid, and then 5 to 6 years down the road, we're going to see another team in Arizona. So essentially what he's doing is trying to start from scratch with a brand new arena, a brand new team. My only issue with that is that Arizona's been building this core for the last 4 or 5 years, and they're just starting to become good again. Not this season, but next season they should be good again. And my question is, are fans really going to get behind this? Are fans going to get behind a team necessarily building this whole way up, then relocating, and then having to start from scratch when that team's probably going to be good when they go to Salt Lake City? That's the part that kind of blows me away. So there's more to this, but I want to get your guys' thoughts. So, Carter, what was your initial thoughts when you found out the Coyotes were working on relocating to Salt Lake City?
This has kind of been news for, I think, pretty much this entire season. So it's not that big of a shock to me, but at the same time, it's I don't know how this is obviously the relocation to Salt Lake will probably be a pretty not simple transition because obviously there's going to be some other stuff that has to happen. I saw today about division shifting around and stuff like that. But I feel like them relocating to Salt Lake, it's not a bad idea, especially if no one's really getting behind them right now and they don't have an arena. So relocating is kind of this is an effort to at least try and keep this team around and not completely trash it. That being said, them trying to, as you said, talking about how they're going to maybe bring an expansion team back to Arizona once all this is done being built. As you said, this is I don't think that would work out as well. Like, obviously, expansion teams usually in their first year are at least somewhat decent right out of the gate. Like Vegas first year was unreal. Seattle first year was but they decided to go a completely different direction. Like, you can have a good team right out of the gate with an expansion team. So that actually could benefit Arizona if they do come back with an expansion program. Or it's just going to be like, oh, well, we built this entire core for Arizona to try and bring our fans back, to try and bring people, into this new arena that we're going to build. And now we've just completely lost everything and we're going to have to restart completely from scratch. So ultimately, I don't know. We're going to have to, like, this is not going to be like something that we can call a good or bad decision right away. As far as for Salt Lake City, this is great if they get a team. That's definitely a market that, could have a lot of hockey fans there, and definitely they got a lot of sports there. There's not a whole heck of a lot going on in Utah. So, that could end up bringing some fans to them there. So, as far as for this being for like the state of Arizona, we're going to have to see if this is a good or bad decision kind of once a few years down the road, seeing if they're going to end up getting an expansion team or not. So it's hard to really comment on it right now.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, like, and the cool thing is, too, like, with this podcast, we can look back at this episode years down the road and see the initial news. Like, we're going to be reporting on this for the next couple of years. Like, this is going to be something we're going to be talking about a lot. Now, the ironic thing is when I proposed the arena plan in the last episode 50, I think that you guys, or I think Jack said that they should relocate. I think Carter said that they should stay. You guys kind of had split opinions. But Jack, you were the guy who wanted them to relocate. I want to know your thoughts on this team going to Salt Lake City and just the overall news we heard today.
Well, I think part of it is the mayor of Salt Lake City and the owner of the Utah Jazz. They want a hockey team there so bad, and you can see them pushing for it on social media, and like if they have a press conference or something like that, you can see that they want a hockey team so bad there. And I think it's a good location, put them in the maybe Pacific Division. I don't think they're close enough to go in the Central, but yeah. One of the things though that I was thinking is the Coyotes, like when they have a good atmosphere, like it's a good atmosphere. And we had some playoff games a couple years ago there, and I mean the fans were just electric. And I know they're playing in that small arena, so it doesn't help right now. But in my opinion, I don't know. I think hockey belongs in the desert, but I wouldn't hate to see a Salt Lake City move.
Here's my thing, though. Like, we haven't seen legitimate success in Arizona in such a long freaking time. Like, The last time we saw legitimate success was, like, 2012. I was literally 5 years old. A lot of us were very young. We didn't even know each other yet. But that point, it was, like, 12 years ago, essentially. And the crazy thing is, too, is if the playoffs weren't expanded in 2020 and this team missed the playoffs, if the NHL played a regular season, they're in the Buffalo conversation for longest playoff droughts. That's the crazy part to me. Had it not been for the COVID, this team would be in like the 14-year range of missing the playoffs, the 13-year range. That's a long freaking time without playoffs. So I want to get out of Arizona's talk and transition over to Utah, Salt Lake City. So I want to ask you guys this question before I go through some of these names that have been proposed. What is a name that you guys think would be good for the Salt Lake City team?
I have not thought of that, to be honest with you. That takes some thought, and I have not thought of that at all.
I saw a couple name proposals. Like, I saw some good ones and I saw some bad ones. I'm really bad at naming teams, but one that I saw that I kind of really liked was the Salt Lake Stallions. I feel like that's not a bad one. It kind of flows off the tongue pretty well. But I don't know. I feel like for the most part, they're going to have to go with something that starts, like the name of the team starts with an S, because I feel like that's just going to flow pretty nicely. But I don't know.
Well, it's a good thing you guys don't know. I got some names here for you. All right, so
you have to grade them.
I got a few. I didn't come up with these. These are credits from All Hockey Culture. Carter might have seen this. I hope you didn't.
I did.
God damn it. All right, whatever. So I'm going to say this name, and you guys are going to say yes or no to it being the Salt Lake City name. So we'll start off with a good one. The Utah Yetis.
I like it. Yes.
Carter's shaking his head. Carter doesn't like it. Why, Carter?
It's not cold there.
It's true. You got a good point. Then and the funny thing is too is I saw something from Bartner as well. A good friend of ours on the podcast who made a thing saying the Utah Yetis was like number 1, and he had the Winnipeg Ice look.
Yeah, and like that just hurts me. All right, you guys are like taking shots at my old job. Like I'm gonna start crying here.
Sorry. All right, next one, the Utah Brine Shrimp.
No. I don't even know what that is, but no.
The Utah Blizzard.
Yes.
It's nice, but it's not snowy there. It's not snowy there.
Yeah.
The Utah Rangers.
No, there's a
Can't take that. You can't take that. The New York Rangers are already there.
That's a name on here for some reason.
It shouldn't be.
The Salt Lake City Stingers.
Yes.
Stingers isn't bad, but like I don't know.
Is a logo or like a hornet.
Well, it'd be like the Sarnia Sting kind of style.
Wichita State.
Maybe. The Utah Saints.
No.
No, Salt Lake Saints would be better.
It would.
Utah Olympians.
No.
No.
These are.
Well, I mean, the Olympics is coming there, so come on.
I wonder. Hang on. I wonder if I were to go on ChatGPT if I could get better ones.
Okay, all right, hang on. I'll say the rest of them then. The Salt Lake City Stags.
No, what is a stag?
This just a rename here. The Utah Coyotes.
Yes.
Salt Lake City Golden Eagles is my last one.
No.
Okay. So
hold on. There's actually ChatGPT might have had some good ones here.
Carter's got some names here. ChatGPT.
Okay.
Salt Lake City names. Let's go.
All right. So we got the Salt Lake City Storm.
Yep, I like that.
Low key.
Hold on.
I don't know if that like.
This one might be one of my favorites. The Rocky Mountain Raptors.
Oh my god.
That's nice.
That's pretty good.
Salt Lake City Thunderbirds is
No.
Salt Lake City Avalanche, no.
Oh, they can't do that.
Salt Lake City Silverbacks.
Like a horse?
I get no, like gorilla maybe, like a gorilla.
The Salt Lake City
like
Monkeys.
The Mountain Majesty.
What?
The Rocky Ridge Rhinos.
Not too much.
All right, yeah, this is starting to get bad, but I like those first two.
Yeah, those first two aren't too bad. But
the rest of them just sucked.
Yeah, they're not that great. Let us know though, what you guys think would be the best name for this Salt Lake City team, and we will be keeping track of this throughout the next couple of episodes on the podcast. So stay tuned for that. One more thing here that I do want to get into before we do our Jack's Guest Supplier is the Philadelphia Flyers. Freaking collapse, man! Like just 8 straight games after being at such a great point in the season, and it's rough. So I want to go to Carter first before I give out my thoughts, because my thoughts might be a little bit different than Carter's. But Carter, what are your thoughts on the Philadelphia Flyers and their 8-game losing streak at the end of the season?
That is bad. I like. There's not much you can really say here. I've seen a couple things where it's like the team has quit on Tortorella. That is not true whatsoever. The team's playing like decent hockey, but like I think we're the highest in. I can't remember the 2 stats. We were like top 3 in like 2 stats, but then we had over the last 8 games we had the lowest save percentage. It was like us at like 7.81, and then it might have been like Buffalo at 8.61. Like, that is a big gap. If your goalie out of 10 shots is saving a goal less on 10 shots, that's not good. Like, that is bad. That is bad hockey. So, as I want to blame the goaltending, but I haven't watched a lot of Flyers games lately. One, because they've been playing like absolute like crap. Two, I've been hella busy. But I don't know how their defense has been playing. I'm hoping that their defense has been playing good and it's the goaltending, or I'm hoping that they're playing bad and it's not the goaltending and it's the defense's fault. And I'm praying it's not both, because that is not good. I think we got rid of Sean Walker, and I'm not saying that that's the wrong move whatsoever. We kind of had to. He was playing really well, and we had to get value, because let's be honest, we weren't even. I'm just shocked that we're even still here. Like, as happy as I am that we're like, as mad as I am that we're falling out of a playoff spot, I gotta remember I had the Flyers finishing dead last this season. I don't think anyone really had them making it past like the top like 30 even. Like, did anyone have them outside of the top 30?
I think a lot of us had them generally last in that
Yeah.
Metro division. We thought Columbus was going to be better.
Like the fact that we're even in a chance to even still make the playoffs is huge. When we're a younger team, we have a lot of prospects in our pool. We still have one of our top guys who's not even here yet. We have a goalie who's going to be unreal. We have two goalies who are going to be unreal, two Russian goalies who are going to be unreal for us. We have one of the better rookie goalies of this draft, or not of this draft, of this year. We have another goalie who's playing with the Brandon Wheat Kings, who's absolutely playing out of his mind. Like, our goaltending situation's good. Our defense is young. We still have Cam York, who's had an exceptional season. Jamie Drysdale, who's probably one of the better puck-moving defensemen in the National Hockey League. Like, we're a young team. Farabee's taken that next step. Frost has taken that next step. Tippett's taken that next step. Konechny's playing unreal. Like, we weren't even supposed to be here. We should not even be talking about the Flyers making the postseason. You take us back to the start of the season. We're not even talking about the Philadelphia Flyers right now, outside of, are they going to land the number 1 overall pick? The fact that we're still here is unreal, and I'm very happy to be a Flyers fan. This is a bright future. We have a lot of picks still. Danny Briere knows exactly what he's doing here. The Flyers have not quit on Tortorella. It's just a collapse near the end of the season. Sometimes these things happen, right? Like, sometimes these things do end up happening. So, is it a big deal? Yeah, like, it kind of sucks that they're collapsing. They could have had a playoff spot. But at the same time, they were going to get walked first round anyways, I think. I don't think they'd take a game. But at the end of the day, getting them a chance at the draft lottery to move up a couple spots, maybe get a big piece to help them out in the future is just as good as them making the playoffs this year. There's still a lot of hope for the Philadelphia Flyers. I have not given up faith on this team yet. I think, could they still make the playoffs? Fuck yeah, they could. There's still they still got 4 or 5 games left in the season. Realistically, they still have a chance. Is it likely? Probably not. But I'm not too worried about. This season's probably over for them now. But this was a bright look at the future for the Philadelphia Flyers. I think we give our goaltenders a full year. I think that this is going to be a Philadelphia Flyers team that we will talk about next season as being a true playoff hopeful.
Well, mathematically, we're not out of it. We're still in the playoff. We're still in a playoff like contention. We're only like
we're in a bubble.
But you can see with the way that the team's playing, you can see that with the way just overall, like, we're probably not going to make it. We're probably not going to jump. I think we got to jump like 2 or 3 teams now to make it into the playoffs. I just don't think it's viable for us. I honestly don't think it's best for us to go that route. Listen, I think we were gaslighted a little bit by the Flyers' success at the start of the season and through like about 95% of the year. I think we were a little bit gaslighted. I don't think this team is bad, but I do think they overachieved a little bit. I don't think they're as bad as we projected them to be, but I don't think they're as good as they were at some point in the season. So where does that leave them? Somewhere in the middle. When it comes to Urson, I think he's been overplayed. I don't think he's a bad goalie. I think as Jack said in our last episode when we did our award predictions, a rookie goalie coming in and playing as many games as he did and getting a lot of saves or getting a lot of wins as he did, I think is impressive, and I think we should give Urson credit for that. So credit to Jack for that pick. But I still think that he can be a good goalie. He's just been overplayed. He needs to get used to it. And then when it comes to Tortorella, I don't really understand how you can say that the team has Tortorella's lost the room. I don't really understand that. I don't really get that at all. Because and even if they were gonna fire Tortorella, I don't see why they would do it. Mainly just because like they had a really good season outside of this losing streak, and there was a lot of other factors that played into a really good year for Philly. So I don't understand why the hell they would fire Tortorella. I don't get it. But yeah, as Carter said, I agree. I think they have a much brighter future than people think. And I do think that they are a ways away still. They clearly are not ready, but give them a couple of years, and this team will be back to being good again. So, yeah. All right, Jack, you have any thoughts on the Flyers? If not, it's okay. We kind of went on there a little bit.
I mean, yeah, you guys hit it right on the head. I'm pretty sure we all had them at least 25 or below. But yeah, as you said, they definitely did overachieve a little bit. And yeah, you said they lost 8 straight.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had no idea about that. So when you said that, I was honestly shocked. But yeah, that's a collapse. That's a collapse.
Casual.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I did not know that. But yeah, being in a playoff spot for that long and then just collapsing at the end of the year, never a good thing. Obviously not really coming into the year. Nobody expected them to be in the playoffs. But yeah, Tortorella is a good coach. Yeah, but bright future for you guys.
All right. Well, transitioning out of the Flyers, it's time for Jack's spotlight here before we get into our special interview. Jack's guest of player week numero 3. Me and Carter are coming off of a huge win there at a 1-1 record. We're looking to go above 500 here today. So, Jack, have you thought of your player?
I have.
Awesome. All right. So, Carter, do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first this time? What are you thinking here?
I mean, we were kind of hot last time, so I think we got to stick with it here.
You got to.
I think you don't change anything. After a win, you keep your routine the same. And hey, last time I just thought I'd say I did call it. I said I was going to start off slow, and then I was going to hit the ground running. We did it. So, all right, we're gonna stay hot here by saying, Jack, is your player in the Eastern Conference?
Yes.
There we go. All right, cool. So we're going east again. Okay, so we're gonna try and nail down the division here. Jack, is your player in the Metropolitan Division?
No.
Okay. So looking out.
He goes Atlantic again.
Atlantic for the second straight week. We've been keeping track of this, by the way. I have written down the last 2 weeks where Jack has been going, so we got an eye on him. We got an eye on his trends.
Okay, Jack. Does your player play for a team that has red in their logo?
Yes.
Ooh.
Okay. So Montreal, Ottawa, Detroit, Florida. I don't think he's going Florida again here.
I don't think so either. I think it's down to those 3 teams.
He's so gonna go Detroit. There's no way he didn't.
Good idea. Jack, is your player on a Canadian team?
No.
Okay, Detroit. We got.
I told you it's Detroit, man. Come on, let's go.
All right, pull up.
All right. I'm gonna get the position here. Jack, is your player a forward?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Let me pull up my roster here.
I think you take a number shot here, like over under on a specific number.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Hold on. Let me figure out this average here.
I'll let Carter calculate here a little bit. And yeah, so While we wait, I want to talk about Arda Ocal here a little bit about our interview. So we brought on Arda Ocal for about 55 minutes, which is what you're going to listen to here in about 5 or so minutes. So Arda is an analyst for ESPN, as you'll find out. It was a very good conversation we had with him. Us guys really enjoyed it all together. So we think you guys will enjoy it too. If you want to listen to it again or watch it again, there will be a video posted on Friday, which will just be exclusively the Arda Ocal interview on my YouTube channel. So if you guys want to check that out, you guys can. There was a lot of good stuff we talked about. We interviewed him for about an hour. It was a really great interview that we had, and we're very thankful for it. But yeah, so that's coming up next. Carter, have you found out the average yet?
Hold on. I don't know how a calculator works, which probably not good. Okay, so that gets me that. 2, 3, 4.
Technical tips.
Okay, so the average is 45. So that is the average number of a forward. So if you take 45, if you say if it's over like 45.5, realistically that should be the average.
Yeah, because your number over or under 45.5?
Under.
Okay.
Ooh.
1, 2, 3. Oh, crap.
Okay, that might not have been like best play because there's a lot of high numbers.
I feel like we should have went with position. No, there's a lot of. You mean a lot of low numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4.
No, high.
4, 5, 6. There's 6 low numbers. He said
like under 45. Yeah, you said under. Okay, well then that's pretty much average. So I nailed it. God, I'm fucking smart. Nordic, take your shot here, buddy.
All right, there's 7. All right. Wow.
I know who you went with. I got my guy.
You know what's crazy? I kind of figured that Jack was going to go with either DeBrincat or Kane. Nope, they're above 45, so I can't go with those guys. Let's see here. Jack is... Yeah, we'll go for it. Jack, is your player Andrew Kopp?
No.
Oh, that was my guy.
Okay, well, it's a good thing I went with him.
Yeah. Okay, so it's not Andrew Kopp. Let's take a look here. Not gonna go JT. Don't know who that is. He does either. Could go with him. He's having a really... Okay. Jack, is your player Lucas Raymond?
No.
Oh!
Michael Rasmussen.
Oh, you're such a loser.
Well, rough times. It is what it is. Disappointing. So let me write that down. Let me write that down in the notebook. Who'd you say, Jack?
Michael Rasmussen.
Who'd you say, Carter?
I said Rasmussen.
You did not. Did you say Sprong?
No, I said Raymond.
Oh, okay.
That's heartbreaking.
It is what it is. It is what it is. All right.
So bad.
So what you're about to listen to now is our exclusive Arda Ocal interview. So as I said, we got the chance to talk to Arda Ocal for about 55 minutes to an hour. It was a very fun listen. So you guys are going to enjoy this next hour. So anyways, enjoy the interview. All right, so we are joining our NordCast episode number 51 with an ESPN NHL analyst who's been in the broadcasting world for a very long time. We have Arda Ocal here. How you doing today, sir?
Very good, boys. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate the invite. How we doing?
Doing awesome. We're very thankful for this opportunity. We don't get this too often, so we're not going to waste any more of your time. We'll get straight into it. So we've interviewed a few people on this podcast throughout our couple of years doing this. And the first question that we always ask, regardless of whether or not they're in the broadcasting field, they're a content creator, they're a player, we always ask them, how did they get into hockey? How did they start getting into the game that we all love? So what is your story?
Very early. Started playing at 4. Grew up in Canada, just outside of Toronto. Bonded with my dad over hockey. He moved to Canada in his 20s, and he sort of discovered hockey to kind of assemble, to kind of fit in. So he became a Leafs fan by default, moving to Toronto. And so we would watch games on TV, and then he put me into hockey, which, that kind of ignites your love affair with the game, right? So I played it growing up. I was never really any good. I played rep for a couple years, but never like anything of note. You know what I mean? But yeah, it started there. I would say it started there, and then it just never left. Like growing up, I thought, like growing up, I would say like watching broadcasts, I always thought like my guy was Ron McLean. Like I always thought he had the coolest job. I thought it was the coolest thing that he was like talking to hockey players, and he was sitting at a desk, and I saw him after the period, and it is almost like I was looking forward to the intermissions just as much as the game itself in a way. So like that, I didn't know at the time, but that's sort of where my passion and love for like broadcasting came into play as well, because I thought the people behind the microphone were just as cool as the athletes. Like I didn't grow up thinking that I would ever make the NHL, nor did I, obviously like every kid playing hockey in their basements or in their driveways or like game 7 overtime, like, ball up, puck on my stick or ball on my stick kind of thing. Right. But like, I never like thought that would be an idea, but the people behind the microphone were really cool to me. So I always kind of gravitated to the broadcasters.
Yeah, you kind of answered my second question there. I was going to ask kind of how you got into the broadcasting / the analyst type esque.
Yeah, like totally unorthodox. Like I do not have a degree in broadcasting. I went to school for math and business, and then when I graduated, I like took project management jobs, and then like nights and weekends, I would go to like the local pub. Like this is before YouTube and content creators and social media. You know what I mean? So it's like the only place you could go was like the local TV station. That was really it. And so I went there, and I just was like, this is kind of cool. Like I just want to learn and be around this environment because I think it's fun. Not knowing that I would pursue it full time years later, So I did like the campus radio station when I was at school and stuff like that. But the cool thing was that station that I went to had the rights to OHL, and they had at the time there was a team in Brampton, the Battalion, and then the Mississauga team. So they were airing those games, and that's where I got my start in hockey. Because when you do those games, like you do everything. You do some days you're between the benches as a reporter, other days you're talking to the coaches, other days you're play-by-play analyst, whatever they need, because it's like that's the way it was, So it was very much like put you through the ringer, do every role, learn everything. That was a great experience.
Where did you go to school, if you don't mind us asking?
University of Waterloo. Hour outside of Toronto. It is not known for its broadcasting at all. It's very like the thing that it's known the most for is like engineers and computer science majors, like people that are like coding video games and that kind of thing. Like they, a lot of like graduates go to like Microsoft and Google and probably Epic Games now, like just getting jobs like that, like very Silicon Valley kind of work in the tech industry. So really, really smart people, like way smarter than me. Here I am, the guy that's like randomly talking about hockey that went to this school that like Chris Hadfield went to University of Waterloo, and he went to space as an astronaut. Exactly. Remember the time this is totally random, but remember the time he dropped the puck from space? Like at a Leafs game, he was like in the ISS and he like pushes down the puck.
Yes, I remember that. That was
hilarious. That's
yeah,
hilarious.
So I remember reading you actually have a Wikipedia page. Did you know you have a Wikipedia page?
I didn't for a while, and then I was alerted to this like a couple years ago, or a few years ago, I should say. I don't really pay attention to it, so I'm sure that actually there was a time where like my close friends would like try to edit it and just add random things like Arda once ate a extra large pizza in one sitting, or like just like really, really ridiculous things, and then they would stay there for like a week and then it would go away. And they'd like track it.
You didn't eat.
I mean that may or may no comment. Definitely true.
So what your Wikipedia also mentioned is that you actually did wrestling for a while. Is that true?
Yeah, definitely. So that's a great story. So I grew up a wrestling fan. I did enjoy it. Like hockey and pro wrestling were like my two things that I really, really liked. But the reason I really started to pursue it was because I got this piece of advice early in my career when I was like really diving into hockey. And I wouldn't give this advice. I've said this before in other interviews. Like, I wouldn't say this advice to people who are pursuing media or content creation or broadcasting now. I would actually say the opposite. But it was fair advice at the time. And I understand why this person said it. They said, if you are wanting to be a hockey broadcaster, which I did, the problem is, especially in Canada, it's probably the most lucrative seat in television. And so if this person leaves, like let's say Ron McLean leaves that job, there's going to be hundreds of people that are more qualified than you that would be vying for that job. Basically what he was saying was it's a very crowded industry. So he was sort of telling me, find the road less traveled, like find a niche and own it, and then try to transition from there. Now, what he didn't tell me was that runs the risk of being pigeonholed as a certain, just that person. And so I said, well, I also like combat sports or pro wrestling, so why don't I try that? So I started doing UFC content, WWE content, etc. And that eventually became my world for a little while. Like I still did OHL games and things like that, but I was really diving into the combat sports because I wanted to own that space and make a name for myself. And in the short term, he was right. Like I was able to gain steam more quickly in that space than I was in hockey, which would have been maybe for me anyway, like a more of a marathon, which I probably would have been wanted to go on, but still. So eventually, a few years later, I got on the radar of WWE, and that's what brought me to the States. So I worked there for a couple of years. But really, like, it didn't work out for me there for multiple reasons. And it's not a bad experience or anything. It just didn't work out. And I was also missing hockey. So after that, I took it as an opportunity to try and get back into the hockey world. And luckily, that's when the MSG Networks gig came up, and we did a hockey show there. And I was able to contribute to Rangers and Devils broadcasts. But yeah, like, it's just a very winding, like this content creation, broadcasting, media. It's never a linear path, right? Like the three of you, I'm sure, already feel this, right? Like doing a show, like, your journey creating content in media broadcasting, no one has the same story. It's always, this like winding road, and some people, find success a lot faster than others, but it's your journey to yourself, like it's your unique journey. It's the way it is.
So you use like your wrestling to like kind of like build up your name essentially, and that's how you got into the MSG and that stuff. Is that
in a way? Yeah, like I guess WWE had a little bit of a cachet to it. I would say that I would say WWE in combination with, so like after OHL, I did some AHL broadcasts, so I was able to do like Marley's games and things like that, and that like gave me enough of a portfolio that like MSG would maybe give me a second look kind of thing, So like I had enough tape that I could, say, look, like I've done enough hockey that, I could definitely be considered. So that worked out in my favor. Timing is everything too, right? Like they just happened to be looking for a fresh face and maybe a new voice and, someone who had different kind of experience. So I kind of fit the bill, so to speak. So it worked out.
Yeah. So, one last question about wrestling. Who's your favorite wrestler? Is it Tyson in the background?
Yeah. Who's my favorite of all time?
Yeah, I would go
all time. My favorite wrestler, Bret Hart comes to mind. There was a guy named Mr. Perfect. He had a really good character back in the day. Roddy Piper for sure. Like I'm old school. Like I love the, from that generation, but I don't really watch much today. Like I watched a little bit of WrestleMania this past weekend. The Rock was, definitely someone especially during the Attitude Era, he was awesome. And he's been great now. Like watching his clips online have been hilarious. Like he's just amazing. So, but these days it's more like, friends I've made in the industry that are doing really well or, winning championships and getting to watch their clips and sort of, being happy for them. Like that's more my watch time in wrestling than actually sitting down and watching a 3-hour Raw or, consuming every second of wrestling content. I just don't have time for that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've never been big into wrestling. It's never just been my kind of thing. I don't know about these guys, but I just never got into it. So when you talk about just overall, not just in wrestling, but overall, when you talk about hardships, what was the biggest thing that you had to overcome when getting into the broadcasting field or the analyst?
It's very like it for many people, myself included, it's very much a rejection business. Like you're going to hear no way more than you're going to hear yes. You're going to suffer a lot of setbacks. Things aren't going to go as quickly as you want them to. Like this is a common story for a lot of people. It is definitely a story that I've experienced, and that's just the way that it is. And when they say you got to have thick skin, it's more than the number one reason is like because you just need to persevere through all of that. If you really want it, like you're just going to power through all of it, and it's just going to work out for you, right? Like it's just going to eventually, like timing, preparation will meet opportunity, and there it will happen. And then the other thing is like, it's a subjective business, right? Like a lot of people might just not like your content or not like something about you, and that will be a detriment. And so you just have to roll with it because you realize that's one person's opinion that just happens to be in a position where they're selecting someone for something or whatever the case may be, right? So those are, it's almost like death by a thousand cuts kind of throughout your career, and it never ends, and you just have to accept that. But I'd say like there were a couple of times in my career where, you know, you get let go or laid off or whatever, and then you're just kind of wondering what's next or what are you going to do, and then you just knock on doors and eventually some sort of opportunity opens. That's how I ended up at the Weather Network in Canada. Like I left the Score and I was figuring out what to do next, and a former colleague there called me and said, "Hey, I just joined the Weather Network. I'm one of their executive producers now. Do you want to try this out for a couple months in Ottawa?" And I was like, "Sure. I'm not doing anything. Why not? You know, say yes to everything." So that's it led to that. And if not for getting the job at WWE, I might still be in Vancouver doing weather because it was such a great gig. So, you know, funny how life is.
Yeah, it's funny how just life will take turns, especially in that realm too.
I will say this, bringing it back to hockey for a second. I was there for the Heritage Classic that Eddie Lack played in instead of Roberto Luongo. So I was there for all of that like controversy. However, I was not covering it from a hockey lens. I was covering it from a weather perspective. And there was no weather story because it was a fine day, and there was no like I was at the Winter Classic that year, which was at the Big House, and that was amazing because there was actual snow and they had to stop the game every couple minutes to shovel the ice, and there was like 100,000 people there. Still, one of my favorite hockey images ever is the aerial shot of Michigan Stadium, where cool. It's like, yeah, isn't it the best picture? It's like half blue and half red, Leafs and Wings, but it's like. It's as if the whole stadium, 100,000 plus people, coordinated that half the stadium would be in blue and half the stadium would be in red. Like that image is incredible. It's the coolest thing.
The capacity of it too is just crazy.
Right. It's just awesome. Yeah. And we've had some great images, like the Lake Tahoe stuff is really cool. Yeah. You know, like the images that they got there with, you know, during the pandemic and whatnot. Like, yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So coming full circle.
Okay.
How did you get your job at ESPN? You might have mentioned that a little bit, but how did you get the job working for NHL and ESPN?
So, well, the NHL part came later. So I started working with ESPN part-time in 2016. I just did random things. Like the first job they gave me was actually esports. And I didn't know anything about the game they wanted me to cover, which was League of Legends. And I was like, I don't know anything about this game. Yeah. I was like, I didn't know anything about this game. So I basically like studied up on it for a month. And then I went to MSG, and it was the World's happening. So I was there for 2 days, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. Like, it was crazy atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. And so they just kept sending me to like gaming events, and then MMA. They started a podcast. They wanted me to host it. So I just did like odds and ends, like that kind of thing. And then finally in 2019, they hired me, and this was obviously before the NHL contract. So I was just, you know, doing things here and there, like contributing wherever, whatnot. And then when it was announced that ESPN is going to bring back the NHL, and you know the rights are back with ESPN, and it's going to start this season, whatever. Then I just raised my hand internally. I just said, "Hey, like I have this experience. I'd love to contribute. Then they started putting me on a show called In the Crease, just doing that, almost like a trial, so to speak, or like a test just to see how it worked out. And it luckily worked out for me. So then that season, I started hosting games and a show called The Point, filling in on that. And I've been doing it ever since. And it's been awesome. Like, if you had told, me from 25 years ago that this is what I'd be doing, I'd be like, that's awesome. Let's keep doing that for the rest of our lives because that's the coolest thing ever. So, I couldn't be happier.
Yeah, I love watching you on ESPN. It's one of my favorite persons to see.
Thanks,
and the funny thing is, too, I don't know if you know that you follow me on TikTok. I think you do.
I do. Yeah. I like following a lot of the hockey content creators because I like to see what they're cooking, including yourself.
Yeah. It's funny because I would tell my mom that this guy from ESPN follows me, and then we watch ESPN, see you on TV. I thought that was pretty cool. All right, so I'll stop talking. My co-hosts do have some questions that they want to ask you related to ESPN. So I'll start with Carter. Carter, what were your questions to ask?
Yeah, so obviously, first off, I didn't get to say thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on here. It's really appreciated.
Absolutely.
But yeah, my first question, kind of what's been the coolest experience you've had, just through ESPN? Doesn't have to be hockey related, just kind of your coolest experience you've had through ESPN.
We got to do some really cool content at All-Star for the last couple of years. It's been fun. I didn't get to go to the one in Toronto. I had to do content locally, but the Florida All-Star was a lot of fun. The thing is a lot of my job is in studio, so I'm usually in Bristol. I did get to do a couple of reporting gigs this season, which was awesome. I did one in Buffalo and one in Long Island, and they were great. And I hope I get to do more next season. It was a lot of fun. So those would be career highlights for sure at ESPN. With ESPN, I've been to a lot of cool. I've done a lot of random coverage. I did, like I said, a lot of gaming events. I did the NHL esports for a while, the NHL Gaming World Championship for a while. And with that, we got to go to Europe. We got to fly to Sweden and crown a European champion, which was the coolest thing. So I don't know if I'd ever have taken an opportunity to go to Scandinavia. Otherwise, I probably should have it on the list, but it was awesome. So to be able to do stuff like that, and make it, under the guise of work is, pretty surreal. So yeah, I'd say that there's been a lot of, fun experiences for sure.
Yeah, those do sound like pretty awesome experiences to get to know on. So I got another question for you. Who is an NHLer that you find term box office, so much must watch? There's obviously a bunch of guys who are just always, perform at their best, but who's your guys that no matter what, if you're kind of sitting around or whatever, and you have to watch these players?
McDavid for sure. Tage Thompson last season was box office for me. Jack Hughes, when he's at his best, is box office to me. I mean, I also love the intricacies. Like I say Connor McDavid, but then he goes up against Cale Makar, and Cale Makar often makes him look normal, Yeah. They'll just strip the I remember a game where it was an Avs Oilers game, and Makar was back, or McDavid was on the flank. He was going to try to cut through to the center, to the middle of the ice, right through to the hash marks. And Makar, with one hand on the stick, just sort of flicked his stick and dispossessed McDavid. It looked so effortless. And I'm watching this you just did that to the consensus best player in the NHL.
Right.
And you're right. Yeah. McDavid, when he has the puck, and when he lowers his shoulder, it's game over, right? It's he's going through 4 or 5 Rangers players, or he's schooling the whole team or whatever. He does that shoulder thing where it's okay, he's going to go to 0 to 100 in 0.2 seconds because he's lightning quick. Kucherov box office. There's a lot of we have a lot of great stars in the league. Even last year, Jason Robertson, there's players that are really exciting to watch for many different reasons. This year, who would have expected a season that we saw from Crosby this year? Seriously. And I'm not even kidding when I say this. If the Penguins make the playoffs, he should be the third Hart Trophy candidate for the season that he's had. He's been unbelievable. And if he's not the best player in the league, right? Obviously you can give that to McKinnon or McDavid, right?
It's value to the team, pretty much.
That's what I'm saying, Jack. Exactly. if the definition is most valuable to your team, and you take Kucherov, it's neck and neck Kucherov and Crosby. If the Penguins make the playoffs, you take Crosby off of that team. Is that team sniffing the playoffs?
No,
probably not, right? And Kucherov, what's the gap between him and the next closest Lightning player in points? Is it like 40 points or something? Like it's absurd. It's absurd. Like that's like okay. But then again, you have I know I'm sorry, I turned this to a Hart Trophy conversation, but like then you have McKinnon, who's never won a like that. That's also silly, right? Like he's on many nights he's the best player in the league. Like that's how good he is. But to me, he's like Kobe Bryant. Like he's like the Kobe Bryant of the NHL, and that he is the most clutch guy. He's the clutch gene guy. He's the guy that like if you were to pick one guy, puck on the stick, late third period, you need a goal. I bet a lot of people would pick Nathan McKinnon because he's got that like Mamba mentality, you know?
Yeah.
And we've seen that happen a lot. How many highlight reel goals has he scored late in the third period to tie a game?
Oh, tons. I think one of the most like I remember when I was a kid, I'd watch like sports finds all the time, and like one of the most ones was in the playoffs. He had an absolute just cuts into the middle and just rips one right from I guess where the ring out line would be, just top of the circle and just in. He's just anytime he's fast like McDavid, and he's unreal.
Yeah,
he's clutch.
Exactly. So hope I answered your question before going on the massive tangent that I just went on.
No, hey, you answered it perfectly. I got one more question for you. So obviously, looking at your background, you seem to be kind of a collector of a lot of different things. I see you got the arcade machines back there.
Yeah,
you got
super random.
Yeah,
I'm waiting on a hockey one. We don't have a hockey arcade machine yet, but I need to get one of those.
Yeah, what's kind of like your favorite piece of memorabilia that you kind of keep kind of in your set?
I have a lot of like hockey stuff here, like the pucks all the way down here. So like I like to find random pucks. There's like a bunch of NHL and ESPN stuff, like that kind of stuff, like stuff that's like I can't necessarily buy is probably the most valuable, but this is a lot of like I love to scour eBay for like random NHL stuff, like anything vintage is cool, you know. Like I have a whole giant jersey collection of random things. I'm also a big Star Wars guy, so like I love when it's like Star Wars night and like NHL teams do like a crossover thing. So like the Panthers had a cool like AT-AT like mixture with their logo and stuff. So like, you know, I'll pick up one of those. Or like the Hurricanes had like, I think they had the best one this year. They took Svechnikov and made him into a Mandalorian, and they called it the Svechnalorian. And there's like the mask and everything. Like I thought that was really cool. So I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll pick up a bobblehead, whatever, you know.
I love Star Wars night. That's my favorite.
It's so much fun. It's so much fun.
I'm from Philly. I went to the Flyers one. Oh my god, amazing! Just so enjoyable.
Yeah,
it's my favorite theme night of the year.
And Gritty gets into it heavy, and then like I think Gritty they've done like Gritty Chewbacca posters.
Yep,
like the Philly Star Wars night. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
Yeah. So I'll move into Jack. Carter, you don't have any more questions, right? Sorry.
No.
All right. So I'll move into Jack. Jack, what are your questions for Mr. Ocal here?
All right, so my first one is, I don't know how often you're around, NHL players, but when you are, just what kind of stands out about them and just how they carry themselves on and off the ice?
They current NHL players, it was a lot more when I was doing work at MSG.
Okay.
But a lot of hockey players are humble. I mean, you can see it in our analysts too, like especially off camera. Like hockey players are generally very humble, very down to earth. Very team oriented, you know, like the knock on hockey players as a stereotype is they lack personality, right? Like that's always what you hear about hockey players. What I would say to that is you just have to find the right way to get it out of them, you know? And so sometimes it's a challenge, sure. But then you have like players like, you know, Seth Jarvis and Tomas Hertl, who in their way are very charismatic and entertaining, you know, like I would, if you're telling me that I'm going to be doing a Hurricanes game and this wouldn't happen necessarily, but like every period I'm going to talk to Seth Jarvis, awesome, because he's great, you know. But like a guy like Sid, for example, like he gives insightful answers. It's just not, you know, it's not hyped up and turned up to 11, you know, but like he often gives very, very thoughtful answers. And I like, yeah, like a guy like McDavid, for example, like he'll also do the same in the right moment and circumstance. And if you ask, a certain way to ask questions, sometimes you unlock them. So, but our analysts, by and large, like really great people, and some of them are definitely full of personality. Like I worked with Kevin Weeks yesterday, and he's awesome. In many ways, it feels like a night off because it's so easy to work with him. Like the chemistry is there, and he's very, very entertaining. And PK's like that too. And then you have a guy like Ryan Callahan who's like a wealth of knowledge, and he's just incredible. So I can tell why it's very, you meet him for like a minute and you're like, yes, you were definitely a captain in the NHL. And I can see why very quickly, so we're lucky. We have a really good group.
All right. My second one is, you mentioned you've been on shows like The Point and stuff like that. And so just what goes into preparing yourself for a TV segment?
Yeah, sure. So The Point's usually an hour. So that's multiple segments, like 5 or 6 segments. And basically, a 60-minute show is usually like 44 minutes of television. And so the producer will be the one that puts together like, okay, let's do this segment, this and this, basically filling that 44 minutes of time. And the analyst, whoever I'm working with, whatever analysts are on the desk with me, will give their perspectives on things and say, hey, like, let's talk. Like, let's say we were doing a show today, right? I would imagine some of the topics would be, okay, let's talk about the East wildcard race. Who wants this second wildcard spot? Feels like it's a hot potato. No one no one wants it. It's like they keep it for a day and then it's someone else, and everyone keeps losing. And what's going on here, right? So then we go to the analyst and say, well, what angle do you want to take? Okay, well, we can ask a lot of questions. Why is this happening? Which teams want it more? Which team do you think is going to get it? Which team is going to be the biggest disappointment after all of this not making the playoffs? And then, we can drill into things like, hey, Torts is, with Philly has been very vocal about his team, getting to this point, but not getting there, or et cetera. And then the Patrick Roy Islanders angle and the Detroit Red Wings resurgence angle. Like there's you can look at one story in multiple different ways, right? And you choose which ones you want to look at it through, depending on how much time you allot to that segment. Let's say it's a 3-minute segment. You wouldn't talk about all of those things, and you might pick and choose things that are relevant, right?
Yeah.
And then with The Point in particular, sometimes it's a pregame show, like it's close enough to whatever exclusive game that we have that night. So we'll focus on those two teams. Let's say, like, for example, on Sunday, Weeksy and I did Colorado and Dallas. So, okay, Central Division, is that the strongest division in the NHL? That's a possible question. Hey, these two teams could be meeting in the playoffs. Like, what can we expect from that? That's a possible question. Nathan McKinnon's in the Hart Trophy race. Let's talk about that. Like, basically what you're doing is you're looking at the NHL, picking storylines, or in this case, specific teams, and picking things that are interesting to then put into the show. So then once I see, we have a thing called a rundown, right? So basically, I'm sure you guys have one for a show. I usually do it in bullet points or something like that, where it's like, okay, so these are the things that we're going to hit. And then what I would do is I'd say, okay, let me look at these things and just have a couple questions or a couple of like nice little tidbits to supplement this topic, right? And so ultimately, my job as the host is to tee up the analysts, the former players or the coaches or whoever I'm sitting with, to succeed. They are the stars of the show, especially on a show like The Point. That is a magazine, like a talk show. People are tuning in to hear what they have to say. They played the game. They know the game very well. They're experts in the game, or they coach the game, whatever, right? Or they report on the game. So my job as the host, the traffic cop, the point guard, is to set them up to win, to succeed, to shine, because then the show wins, and then I win as a result as well, right? So that's like a 101, 20,000 foot view on how I would sort of prepare for shows. And then as the show's going along and when it's live, then I'm just making sure that we're sticking to times and we get to breaks, etc. Finding creative ways to segue into where I need to go.
Thank you for that. And then my last question is, you mentioned you went to college for math and business, which is just crazy, and now you ended up as kind of a broadcaster.
Yeah.
So just how long after college did these opportunities start, like popping up?
Well, I honestly, it was probably like 6 or 7 years before I actually decided to try it full time, and then it like it's still like spaced out. It's not like they all inundated at once. But when you work in the industry enough, you meet enough people, you keep in touch. You just like it. Things happen to tend to like snowball or work out in that way, So, to answer your question directly, it wasn't like quick at first, but luckily it was enough that kept me motivated to keep trying.
Okay.
Awesome. All right, Jack, you have any more questions?
I don't.
Okay, cool. So I got two more about broadcasting, then we'll get into some NHL type questions.
Sure.
So
Whatever you got.
who is your favorite person to work alongside with? You mentioned Kevin Weeks, you mentioned Callahan, you mentioned a lot of guys. Who's your favorite one to work with without making anyone angry that you didn't pick him?
Yeah, see, that's a tough question because it's like, man, how do you pick? Like, all the people that I work with are like great in their own way, and so it's tough to pick just one person. Honestly, AJ Malesko is awesome. She's a gold medalist. Obviously, she's Patty one of Patty Kazmaier. She went to Harvard. Like she's the mayor of fun, like the captain of vibes. Like it's always a great time when she's in studio. We just get along really well, great friends kind of thing. Mike Monaco is awesome too. I love throwing him and Bob Wischusen. I've had a chance to work with a couple times, and they're both like excellent hockey voices, like just so good. And so I've been like the two games that I did this year, I was lucky enough to have them as my play-by-play guys because they're both incredible. But honestly, like I sit in studio with Steve Levy and Mark Messier and PK Subban every Saturday, and it's like it's the coolest thing because it's like I get to sit and absorb them talking about hockey. So I always feel like I leave smarter than I did about the game of hockey that we love,
Yeah.
I will say one name that I wish still worked at ESPN is John Tortorella because
yes,
I got to work with him a lot in the first year, and he was incredible. He is one of the best hockey minds out there. I know that he's got a public persona. I know that he's polarizing to the hockey community, but to me, the way he treated me and the way that I was able to like learn from him, but also how we interacted off camera, like we talked about almost everything other than hockey. And so like my view of him is completely different, and it's biased in a way because I was able to spend so much time with him. But that guy's awesome to me. Like he's just not just the hockey side of it, which is obviously in that job, the important part. The knowledge is obviously like, one of the best in the business, but like as a human being, I cherished the conversations that we had because he's awesome. So
yeah, me and Carter are huge Flyers fans. So that's good to hear.
Fantastic.
Raising our coach.
Oh yeah, he was terrific. Like we talked a lot about his animals and like things like that. Like he just there was one game actually I was laughing, but there wasn't one game where he got kicked by one of his horses and he showed up to the game. You have to look this up.
Did he have a black eye from it?
Yes, he had a black eye, and allegedly they said on the broadcast that he, like I guess a back kick or something as he was feeding them or something like that. I don't know, but in my head I'm like, yeah. First of all, the horse lost. Second of all, Torts is not going to miss a second of hockey. Oh, the ultimate hockey guy. No outstanding. Chance. Yeah, all he was the best.
Yeah, my final question for you is advice to people. So if you're looking at someone like maybe me or Carter or one of us per se, and we're trying to get into what you do, or even just like the broadcasting world, what's your advice to us for getting into a field like that?
So let me pull up your. I'm pulling up your TikTok right now. Nordic 97, right? So. Yep. You're in a good spot. So your follower base is very good, especially for hockey. Like we're like even in TikTok right now, like we're finding that like you probably felt this like 6 months ago or a year ago, it felt like so like your videos would catch fire a lot more quickly, right? Like it
Yeah.
just felt like the algorithm was in your favor a little bit more, maybe. I felt like that for sure, and I'm sure that you feel the same way. Like even some of our videos on like, you know, major like ESPN or NHL and ESPN don't catch fire. Like maybe the algorithm changed, but they don't like go viral or catch fire the way that they used to. The thing is like what I'm getting at is the algorithms consistently change, the landscape of creating on social changes, right? So like you have to be on top of that, like constantly. It's not just like trial and error, which you absolutely should be doing, but also like what are other people doing, what is succeeding right now, like the trends, the ideas, the thoughts. I always tell people, you probably know this, Nordic, already, but like if there's a new feature that a social media platform releases, spam it. Like do as many of like YouTube when they released shorts. I can't tell you how many people that I spoke to said, man, I just put up so many shorts videos when it first got launched, and it just like fed me into the algorithm because they wanted that feature to succeed, right? So like, and TikTok sometimes tells you too, right? Like, what was it like a couple months ago where they were like, hey, we love seeing videos longer than 3 minutes or something like that, right? So like right, you know what I'm talking about? Like I absolutely experiment with those kind of things, because at the end of the day, if it fails, whatever, like, is it really that big of a deal? You know, like you can't take like, you know, Nordic, tell me this doesn't resonate with you. Like you make a video and you're like, this is going to be a banger. This is hilarious. Like I put my heart and soul into this. This idea is amazing. And then you put it up there and you're just like 500 views. What the hell happened?
Yeah,
like,
that's happened plenty.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. And then like sometimes you can't help but take it personally because you're like, I thought for sure this was gonna pop off and this was gonna be the one. And then sometimes you just throw something up there and it like just hits the algorithm, and then you get millions of views on it, and you're like, this? Like I didn't put any thought into this. I just like, this was just a fleeting idea and it just like threw it up there in like 20 seconds. Like what's going on here, you know? So
yeah, the funny thing is like what I'll do is like I'll post a video. Like for today, I posted like something about the Ottawa Senators getting eliminated from playoffs.
yeah,
I posted that. I don't know how it's doing right now, but like, you know, let's say it didn't do all too good. Then I post something that like literally took me like 5 minutes. Like I posted a slideshow of photos,
sure,
and that got like 3,000 likes. like that's just how crazy the algorithm.
Exactly. And maybe TikTok just wanted to reward slideshows that day.
Yeah.
So yeah. So generally, I would say like be creative, be thoughtful, be, consistency for sure. You know this, right? Consistency. Like if you don't post every day or at least on a time, like on a schedule, you're not going to get as rewarded, because like the platforms reward consistency, right? So like even if you schedule them and you're just like, I need to guard my peace of mind, so I'm not like working 24 hours a day, schedule them so that you can have them come out like on YouTube, etc. So I would say that. I'd say if you wanted to get into sports broadcasting, find it at all levels. Find minor hockey tournaments to contribute to call, to do reporting at. Make sure you're on the radar of all the teams. Send them new and updated stuff consistently, like every couple months or whatever you got. And you just have to be fearless. Like sometimes, just like hitting the algorithm, like sometimes you'll land on the lap of somebody who needs someone and is looking to hire, and other times you'll just be knocking on the door and it'll be a not now, but maybe it might open one day. So you never know.
Put yourself out there.
Exactly.
That's kind of what you're saying.
Exactly. Just like you're doing with your content, right? Like sometimes it's not easy. Other times you're just like, it's the greatest feeling in the world when something you create resonates with people, right? And you're just like that it feels like a validation. So, you just got to keep going.
Yep. All right. Transitioning out of the broadcasting realm and all that good stuff, we got some NHL questions here for you. First off, who has been the most surprising team for you to watch this season?
The Flyers.
Hey.
Who's not saying the Flyers? They were in a playoff spot since December.
Yep. And
Like
then I watched them crumble this past week.
Third in the Metro, and then all of a sudden, yeah. But no team in the East wants that second wild card spot. Everyone is just like,
it's so annoying to
we're
watch.
good.
Because like you'll see the Flyers losing, and then you'll see the Red Wings lost the same night. The Capitals will be
exactly.
losing. And then just like all of a sudden Pittsburgh comes into the mix, and Buffalo isn't even that far behind either. It's just such a dogfight, and nobody seems to want it. That's
the most difficult part, right? Is that nobody seems to want it. That's the hilarious part. Like third in the Metro is completely up for grabs.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like I don't think anyone wants to get
wild card
destroyed by Carolina. Let's be honest here.
Yeah,
I don't think anyone wants
that's the first round matchups. Like the Rangers would play Rangers Red Wings would actually be a fun. I'm looking at the standings right now. Rangers Red Wings would actually be pretty fun. The Leafs and Panthers would be hilarious for the story because of the last season. The Bruins and the Lightning is not an easy out at all. Like the Lightning know how to play playoff hockey. That's going to be tough for the Bruins. And then the Canes and Islanders. Yeah, the Hurricanes are a juggernaut. To me, like if you were to ask who won the trade deadline, a lot of people point to Vegas, especially with like picking up Hurdle at literally 3:00 Eastern. But I say the Hurricanes, man. Like Gensel and Kuznetsov, and Gensel, like he loves. Like you could tell. I spoke to every member of that top line. They all just absolutely love it. They're like, the chemistry's already there. We're clicking. We're buzzing. Like, this is going to be awesome. It's like you could feel that already, you know?
The vibes are immaculate.
Exactly.
Who has been the most disappointing team for you this year?
The Buffalo Sabres, the New Jersey Devils certainly come to mind. Yeah, I'd say those two teams. The Senators, too, like on paper, you'd think they would have been a playoff team, right? But they haven't exactly been that. Obviously, they're not. But like, they're just, I don't know, there's a lot of great players on that team. It's just not working out. But yeah, the Devils, like, the goaltending, man. They could have, like, you wonder what would have happened if there was a fix earlier in the year, you know?
Yeah, it's just so disappointing. And I mean, they almost got Markstrom at one point in the season.
Yeah,
and then they're just like couldn't make it work. But still, it's one of the biggest what ifs this year is what if the Devils actually had a legitimate goalie at the start of the year? Like, what if?
It's true. But unfortunately, they're gonna have to be saying what if out of the playoffs. So probably.
They're not out yet.
Fair enough.
But probably
5 points out with 5 games to go or whatever. Yeah,
they have to win out essentially, and then as well as that too, they gotta have hope the other teams lose too.
Yeah.
So coming into, I know you kind of just talked about it a lot, but with the Eastern Conference playoff race, who in your opinion is going to make it? I know like it's just such a dogfight right now. It's changing almost every single day, but like who's the team? I guess the two teams that you think are going to be a lock for it.
The Hurricanes are my favorite to get out of the East, especially if they get solid goaltending. If Freddie Anderson's been amazing since he came back from his health issue, right? Yeah. So if he continues that in the postseason, that team's going to be dynamite. Like, I think we can all agree that a lot of the postseason is based on getting the hot hand at the best possible time.
Absolutely.
Look at Florida.
Right?
Look at Florida last year.
Look at Florida. Exactly. They were down in that series. They could have easily lost, but they just struck fire, like they ignited, and then all the way to the finals. Busting 10, boys. Busting 10.
This is why I'm so worried about Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh's being bad right now. If they make it, oh my God. Like, I feel like they could go on a run.
They could, and then with Sidney Crosby, you know, it's tough to bet against that guy. 19 straight seasons at a point per game. Him and Gretzky, that's it.
Unbelievable.
Right? Unbelievable. Right? Isn't that insane? Like, the fact that it's almost unfortunate in a way that he's not, if I said he's one of the best hockey players ever, yeah, everyone would agree, right? But like, if you were to make a top 5, I don't know does he make the top. Like, it's so tough, right? It's so tough.
Close, very close.
You
very
got
close.
you,
He's
just like there's so many names in there. Like it's just difficult.
There's a lot of good players.
Gretzky or Howe Lemieux.
That's 5 right there. Yeah. So or 4.
Yeah.
4,
Yeah,
and then
awesome.
that fifth one, yeah, like Messier, like
Lidstrom, like
there's that that we could spend hours debating this, but like I'm just putting into context, like, but Crosby 19 point per game seasons, 3 Stanley Cups, like golden goal in 2010.
Yeah.
one of my favorite moments.
Yeah.
So transitioning into the awards. Last episode for our podcast, we did our like award ballots where we picked our picks for the awards.
Yeah.
We're just gonna do like the big 4, like the Calder, Norris, Vezina, such and
Okay.
such. So, who's your pick for the Calder? I think I don't even really need to mention this, but
Bedard. Like I like the love for Brock Faber. Like I love the Minnesota Wild love. Like I think he definitely put himself in the conversation with Bedard out. And I think the lofty expectations of Connor Bedard, I think people were expecting like a 100-point season or something because he had such high hopes coming into the season. And honestly, like some of his games are incredible. Like you could tell this guy's going to be a superstar in the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the people that are not picking him are more like, well, he didn't have as good a season, etc., point totals, whatever, but I'd still give it to Bedard.
What about Norris Trophy? I mean, you could go with Makar again, but there's honestly some guys in there who could make a pretty good case.
Yeah, Quinn Hughes probably. He's probably up there, right? Makar, absolutely. Roman Josi too. Like the thing is, Josi really cemented himself in that conversation with that Predators like hot streak they went on, right? Since the All-Star break or whatever, they were just like lights out and cementing themselves in the first wild cards or in the playoff hunt, right? So, yeah, Quinn Hughes, I say is still the favorite there. But if Roman Josi won, if the Predators make the playoffs, I'm not complaining too hard.
How about the Vezina Trophy?
The Vezina. Who would I give the Vezina to? Yeah, who am I giving it to? I don't know. That's it. There's a lot of Hellebuck probably is the favorite, right? Like he's been really good.
Yeah.
But
like there's a lot of play. What's that?
Carter's also a Jets fan, so he's happy to hear that.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Thankfully,
that's not an easy first round matchup, by the way. Dude.
No,
if you're facing the Avalanche, oh my gosh,
the Central is way too. It's so close right now in that top 3 that like honestly, like right now, any team can flip flop through it, and the Central's a scary spot right now.
Yeah,
even like going up to the 1, you have to potentially play Nashville or even Vegas. Like,
no thanks.
It's scary.
Lose,
no thanks.
Situation.
Hellebuck would be my pick. There's a lot of goal. Like, yeah.
A lot of good goalies.
Yeah, there's a lot of good goalies in that tier, but like Hellebuck is probably like cut above. Yeah. Shout out to Jonathan Quick though. He's had a hell of a year.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I don't know if a backup necessarily is going to win it, but I mean,
no, but yeah, I think he deserves some flowers. Is what I was saying. Yeah.
I mean, our friend Jack here did have Anthony Stolars in his top 5 goalies. I just think you should.
I'm looking at 922 save percentage is pretty good for 25 games.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, that's not bad, buddy. Laurent Brossois, 21 games, 925 save percentage.
Yeah,
how about that?
That's crazy.
Backup of the year.
Oh my god! Yeah,
that should be a word.
Like $6 million a year in the NBA.
And all right, last but not least, the Hart Trophy. Who do you have winning the most valuable player? We talked about this a little bit.
Yes. Okay, so again, I love saying this. The Ted Lindsay and the Hart Trophy have different definitions. To me, the Ted Lindsay goes to probably McDavid. Well, maybe McKinnon. McKinnon maybe, but McDavid probably because most, if not for the awful start that he had, he's easily winning the Art Ross again. He might hit 100 assists this season. Like, it's just funny. Like, last season, he's like, you know what? I'm going to score more. Okay, let me get whatever. How many goals he got? 60 or whatever. What did he get last year? He got something ridiculous.
Something
and
around
then,
60.
yeah. And then this year, he's like, I'm going to go back to passing. He gets 100 assists. It's
unreal.
like Connor being Connor, you know? But the Hart Trophy, dude, I think the way the voters will vote, McKinnon hasn't won one. So I feel like if there's ever a year to give him one, it would be this year because he's been so good. I think if he wins the Art Ross race, if he jumps over Kucherov, he gets it. I think that's what's going to happen. Kucherov has the point gap in his favor on his team. So he certainly is in the mix. And if he wins the Art Ross, maybe he will edge out McKinnon for that accolade. I believe it should be an absolute lock for McDavid if he wins the Art Ross. Like, he had a really terrible start, right? Like, it was bad.
He gave the league a head start, essentially. That's pretty
very much so. He gave the league like a 15-game head start. But if he wins, then it's ridiculous. But then then here's another thing. What if Austin Matthews gets to 75 goals? Probably improbable now. Like, I think he's on pace for 70. But like, even if he gets to 70 goals, like, when's the last time we saw that? Right? Mm-hmm. Like, is that enough? Maybe not, because like, you know, it might not, like, if he had gotten to 80, I think that would have been really tough not to give him the Hart Trophy in that case. But that's where I would go. I think, but then again, the Crosby thing, like Taylor Hall a few years ago, who got the Hart Trophy when the Devils made the playoffs, right? Like, Crosby, man, like, he helps that team make the postseason with the season he's having
single-handedly.
Yeah, the Hart is never a easy pick to make, even though you can just go with McDavid. But it's never been an easy pick, in my opinion, even with the good years of McDavid. So my final question, I don't know if the guys have anything else, but my final question is, what is your Stanley Cup final /champion this year? That might be very difficult.
Leafs and Oilers. Oilers win the cup.
Oh.
Well, either situation would be great for hockey. Because either you're getting the biggest... So if the Leafs win, you're getting the biggest parade in hockey history. Yeah. Probably, right? Like, there's going to be like 6 million people at that parade.
Yeah, that'd be insane.
Right? Like, it's going to be hockey heaven, the hockey capital of the world, essentially, in that moment, you know? Like, it's going to be ridiculous. Or you're getting the best player in the world raising the Stanley Cup. And that is an image, in my opinion, that needs to happen. So give me the Oilers against the Leafs. First time a Canadian team wins the cup since '93, and it will be the Oilers winning the cup.
So what you're saying is you want to see chaos in the hockey world.
I do. Very much so. Very much so. Maximum full-on bedlam. That's what I want.
Full chaos. Well, that's pretty much all I got. I don't know if you guys have anything else.
Yeah, that was awesome.
No, that was unreal. I appreciate it.
Well, Arda, thank you very much for coming on. We greatly do appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
You can check out Arda on pretty much every single social media platform. He's on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Are you on YouTube?
Following Nordic on TikTok, by the way. No big deal.
Do that, please. I would love.
Yeah.
I need that for my promotion video. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Yeah. Go follow Nordic and catch his content. It's great.
Again, thank you, Arda, very much for coming on, and we will transition over to the next segment on the Nordic. All right, so we all hope you enjoyed the Arda Ocal interview. We greatly appreciated him for coming on. It was awesome. We will definitely have him on again. But regardless, as you can tell, we got a little bit of a different thing going on here. We are going to be doing our first mock draft for the 2024 NHL draft. So we're doing a joint kind of draft here where each of us will take a turn making a pick, and we'll kind of just go that way from there. So we got Carter starting off here with the first overall pick from the San Jose Sharks. Carter, who are you taking at number 1 overall?
Well, with the first pick in the 2024 NHL draft, the San Jose Sharks are proud to select Macklin Celebrini, center, Boston University.
Yeah, I think it should. I think it shouldn't be obvious, or I think it should be obvious that Celebrini is the consensus first overall pick. I think that nobody should be surprised by that. Sorry if you can't see me on the screen; it's a little bit weird. But regardless, moving into second overall with Jack's favorite team here, the Chicago Blackhawks. Jack, who are you taking at second overall?
With the second overall pick in the NHL draft, the Chicago Blackhawks are proud to select Ivan Demidov, right wing and center from St. Petersburg, Russia.
Carter's a little in shock. Carter, why are you in shock here?
I don't know. I just figured that Chicago could probably use a defenseman, but I don't know.
Yeah,
He
that
could,
is.
but I want to build up that forward core.
That's valid. That's valid.
So you're working with you. You want to get Korchinski going before you add other defensemen.
Korchinski is going to be a great player.
Okay. Okay. All right. So with the third overall pick in the NHL draft, the Anaheim Ducks are proud to select from Michigan State defenseman Artem Levshinov. So I want to go explain here a little bit. When the Ducks traded Jamie Drysdale, they gave up a really good right-handed defenseman. With a guy like Levshinov, who is playing really well for Michigan State and was a big part in why they were so consistent through a long stretch of time here. I think that Anaheim, it would be dumb to not go with him here at third overall if they get third. I think that would be the best pick for them. So, yeah, I have Artem Levshinov, right defenseman from Michigan State at third overall. So we'll go back to Carter here for fourth overall with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So, Carter, who are you taking at fourth overall?
Well, with a fourth overall pick in the 2024 NHL draft, Columbus Blue Jackets are proud to select Sam Dickinson, London Knights.
My boy, Sam Dickinson.
Lefty.
Yes. I don't hate that pick. I like that pick a lot for Columbus. I think Columbus needs defensemen.
They need a defenseman to pair a guy with David Urich, whatever his last name is. Kind of nice to have.
Yeah, I think that's a great pick. At fifth overall, we're moving through this relatively quickly. That's okay. For the Montreal Canadiens, Jack Polko, who do you have being selected by the Canadiens at fifth overall?
At the fifth overall pick, the Montreal Canadiens are very proud to select Cole Eiserman, left wing out of the U.S. Development Program.
I don't hate this. I don't hate that pick at all. I think
he's awesome.
Yeah, I think that with Eiserman, I think the right fit would be Montreal, to be honest with you. I really do believe that, Eiserman's fallen down the rankings a lot, and we'll get into this when we do our other drafts. His skating has been a big factor. He has really good goal scoring, but his skating has been a big effective factor. I think for Montreal, it'd be perfect because Montreal's still ways away. They have scores in there like Caulfield, like Slavkovsky. They have some good names there. I think Cole Eiserman will be a good fit for the Canadiens, and many would argue that he is a steal. So, yeah. All right, with my pick going to my Arizona Coyotes, which could be Salt Lake City now. Who knows at this point? So with that pick, I thought a lot about this, but I think I'm going to go with Caden Lindstrom from Medicine Hat in the WHL, having a pretty good season with 46 points in 32 games played, has missed some time with injury, but still looks like a very effective player. And I think Arizona would be stupid not to go with him. Now, I don't hate the fact that if they go with a defenseman like Zane Perrick or Anton Silyev, but I feel like they go best player available here and go with Caden Lindstrom. So we'll go back to Carter with the Ottawa Senators. Carter, who do you have going at seventh overall to the Ottawa Senators?
Well, with the seventh overall pick in the 2024 NHL draft, the Ottawa Senators are proud to select Berkeley Canton Spokane Chiefs.
Ooh, so Carter, have you seen Batten play at all?
Canton?
Can.
Berkeley? No, because Winnipeg doesn't have a fucking team.
Ah, yes, I forgot about that. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
That hurts. That hurts.
I'm sorry. Last year, for those who didn't know, Carter actually worked for the Winnipeg Ice before they relocated to I forget what it's called. Somewhere in Washington State.
Wenatchee. The Wenatchee Wild.
So yeah, sorry, Carter. Sorry for bringing up past memories and war crimes. But yeah,
That hurts. That hurts.
Berkeley Cannon at 7th overall, the Spokane Chiefs. I don't hate that pick either. Ottawa wants some solid. They want another really solid forward, and I think Cannon would be a good pick. Eighth
He's
overall.
a good scorer, man.
Yeah, 8th overall to the Calgary Flames. Mr. Polko, who are you taking?
With the 8th overall pick, the Calgary Flames are proud to select Zane Parekh. I think how do you say Parekh?
Parekh.
Yeah.
Right defenseman from Saginaw.
Yeah, I don't hate this either. I feel like Calgary's, I mean, even though they need some work on the forward core, I do think that they lost a lot of big name defensemen. And I do feel like it'd be a good idea to get a guy like Parekh. Now, Jack, why are you not picking TJ Iginla here? Ignala, as you call Iginla's name. Ignala, as you called it in the one.
I feel like that's more the emotional pick. So
that's a good point. That's a good point. I do respect you for that. So back to me here with the Buffalo Sabres. Now, Buffalo, you look at what their big problem was this year. You would argue that it probably was the defense. You could argue the goaltending here a little bit, but it probably was the defense. So I'm going to go with 6'7" Anton Silyev, a left defenseman from Torpedo. Carter does not like that I took that pick at all from him.
No!
Silyev, a very tall forward, doesn't score a lot of points, but you want to have a really good physical guy on your blue line, and I feel like a guy like Silyev would really benefit being on Buffalo, a team that does not have necessarily that great of a defense. So yeah, Anton Silyev going at number 9th overall to the Buffalo Sabres. So moving relatively quick here, we're into the number 10 slot. It is the New Jersey Devils. So Carter, who do you have going at 10th overall to the Devils?
Well, it's no longer Anton Silyev.
My apologies.
Because the Devils could use some size on that blue line for sure. So, oh my gosh, you know what? We're gonna not go size here. We are gonna take another skilled defenseman on a blue line here. We're gonna take Zeev Bynum, left defenseman from the University of Denver.
Yeah, really made a name for himself after the World Juniors when USA won it this year. Really made a big name for himself because I honestly didn't know who the guy was prior to that, but he's done really good on Denver since then, 49 points in 40 games played. So I don't hate that pick for the Devils. I think that even though Buyum is a much shorter player when you look at it, I think he still can be an effective one. Going 11th overall to the Seattle Kraken. Jack, who do you have going at 11th?
The Seattle Kraken are proud to select Carter Yakimchuk, right defenseman out of Calgary.
All right. I don't hate this pick either. I like Yakimchuk a lot. I think Seattle definitely needs some size on their blue line. Yakimchuk, not as tall as Silyev, but still has some decent size to him at 6'3". Doing pretty good for Calgary right now. I don't hate that pick. I like that pick a lot. So Yakimchuk at 11, and me and Carter, it's time to configure here together for the 12th overall pick with Philadelphia. So what are we thinking here? Do we want to go with Iginla, or do we want to go with someone like Helenis or Greentree?
My only thing is the thing that sucks is I think that realistically with this pick, my hope is that the Flyers would be able to take a defenseman.
That's true.
But there's no defenseman available right now. So I feel like at this point you just got to take the best player on the board. In my opinion, that'd be Iginla.
Yeah, so with the 12th overall pick in the draft, the Flyers are going to select TJ Iginla from Kelowna Rockets, a forward. I agree with Carter. I do think that if the situation comes to be, I think they should go with a defenseman, but it sucks because 4 straight defensemen were taken before them, and that's pretty much the entire defensive board. Unless you want to go with a risk there with Adam Juracek, I feel like you would want to go with a guy like TJ Iginla. But the thing is, though, Juracek was hurt for the majority of the year. He played for Czechia for 1 game in the World Juniors and then was hurt for the rest of the year. So that's a little bit of a riskier pick. I do like Iginla. I think that Iginla would do well in Philadelphia. I don't hate it, but then I do agree with Carter. I think it'd be better if Calgary or the Flyers went with a defenseman. But hey, maybe Calgary at 8th overall, if they get 8th overall, maybe they go with Iginla anyways. Going back to San Jose, which is via the Pittsburgh Penguins pick. Carter, you're picking the Sharks again, so you're essentially building the Sharks' future up here. I want to know, what is your 13th overall pick in this draft?
Well, I think with the 13th overall pick in this draft, the San Jose Sharks are proud to select Liam Greentree,
Ooh,
right wing, Windsor.
okay. I don't hate that either. Greentree has been on a very bad Windsor team.
And he's played really well.
He has played really well. I do worry though, from people that I know who work for the Windsor Spitfires, there is some character issue there. There is some issue that he thinks he's better than everyone, which might be a factor why he drops to 13th. But being on a team like San Jose with a team like Celebrini, if they get them, a guy like Colin Graff, Will Smith, man, they're building a pretty good future there if they get these two players. So we'll obviously see there. But again, San Jose is kind of a team too that I feel like they could go with a defenseman. But then again, there's a lot of defensemen on here who are kind of a risk when you just look at the overall numbers. Like the next best guy, I mean, Cole Hudson is on the board. Lane Hudson's brother, Cole, is on the board here as well, and Adam Juracek too. It's just a worry because those defensemen aren't as reliable as the other guys that were picked. So yeah, Greentree to Windsor. Moving down the list here, 3 more picks, 1 more from each of us. At 14th overall to the Washington Capitals. I know this is probably not accurate anymore, but Jack, who are you taking at 14th overall?
At 14th overall, I have the Capitals taking Consta Helenius. He's a center and a right wing, and he plays overseas somewhere. I'm not quite sure where.
He plays in Jokerit in the Finnish league. I have it open right here. So with Helenius, I like this pick a lot too. A much shorter player, only 5'11", so doesn't have really the height status to him, which is okay. But I do think that Helenius has a solid chance at being a very effective player. He is shorter, but he's playing in a league full of men. He's playing in a league where there are adults playing in that league. So I feel like Helenius has that advantage to him. He has that experience. So maybe Helenius would not be a bad fit there with the Capitals. At 15th overall for me, I feel like, I don't know. I think Minnesota kind of goes off the board here a little bit. I feel like they go with a guy like Trevor Connolly, a left wing from the Tri-City Americans, who I think is committed to whatever this school is here on my thing. But yeah, Providence. So Trevor Connolly is at 15th overall to the Minnesota Wild. So with the final pick in the first NordCast draft from the 2024, Carter, who is your pick for the St. Louis Blues?
Realistically, I think that St. Louis could probably use a defenseman here. So I think they're going to take the best defenseman on the board. I know he as you said, he's been hurt, but they're going to take Adam Juracek. HC Plzen. I don't know how you pronounce it.
Yeah,
PLZEN.
Yeah,
close enough.
Yeah, so HC PLZN, something around there. But yeah, Juracek, as I said, has been injured a lot, but I do think he can be an effective defenseman. I don't think he's as good as David, but still, I think Adam could be a pretty solid player there for the St. Louis Blues. So yeah, that is our first mock draft for the 2024 NHL draft. If you guys had to grade our picks overall, how do you guys think we did?
I think this is pretty good. I would give it an A.
I think we did pretty good. I'm gonna give it an A-. I think we did pretty well. I feel like there's some picks we could have did better on, but again, considering the fact, I think we did pretty well. I'm giving it an A-.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'll give it A-, one of those two. I think that, this is a very, very solid draft. And obviously, as we get closer to the time, we're gonna figure out who wants what.
Okay, cool. Good to know. So regardless, that will conclude episode number 51 of the NordCast. Sorry we didn't play any games here at the end. Kind of with the Ocal interview and with this going on, we didn't really want to do specifically any other games besides Jack's guest player. So regardless, we'd like to thank you all very much for watching and listening to this episode of the NordCast. We greatly appreciate it. If you enjoyed on the YouTube end of things, make sure to like and subscribe down below. That'd be greatly appreciated. If you are on the podcast end of things, make sure to give us a good review and give us a nice little like. If you want to follow the NordCast Instagram, be sure to follow here. I have it on screen. Follow at NordCast _. A lot of great clips there, a lot of good takes. We just started posting our leaderboard for each draft, for each award. So Go check that out there. I know it was backwards. I know you guys are smiling at that because it was backwards, wasn't it?
No. I'm smiling because you said some great takes, and then our last take that was posted on there was Jack's.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, yes, Anthony Stolarz, guys. Anthony Stolarz. And if you want to follow the TikTok, you guys can. It's at NordCast. It's another good place there where we see a lot of good takes. So yeah, regardless, let me know your thoughts and comments down below on this post. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to like, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys in the next episode. Adios.